Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a brand new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I know that I have not been putting out regular Storyworthies recently with guests because I had a cochlear implant inserted a couple of weeks ago, and I am now activated, so the sound is definitely getting better. But before I got the cochlear implant, recording this show and editing this show was virtually impossible. So I have not been able to put out new episodes. But today I am talking to you live. It's January 27th, and I'm bringing back a story today from Mollie Heckerling. Mollie Heckerling has a fantastic story you're going to hear in a couple seconds here about Gilbert Gottfried fighting with her babysitter, Barbara. And they got on the Howard Stern show, and there was this big fight, and it's hilarious. And just recently, I've had about 4 Stern fans reach out to me asking me to replay this story. So that's what I'm doing. It's about Gilbert Gottfried and Howard Stern, so I know you're going to love it. Mollie Heckerling is an accomplished writer and a comedian, and she's just fantastic. But before we get to her story, I did want to remind you guys that we are playing Story Smash this Saturday at the Lyric Hyperion, February 1st at the Lyric Hyperion with Danny Zucker and Blanca Patch. You do not want to miss the funniest show in Los Angeles. So if you're here in LA, first of all, I hope you weren't involved in the fires. But secondly, I do hope you can come to the show this Saturday night. Starts at 7:30. It's damn funny. Also, I wanted to tell you that I am safe from the fires. You know, it feels crazy to say this, but I didn't see any fire. I didn't smell any fire. It really did not affect my neighborhood whatsoever. And it really just felt like a snow day for me. You know what I mean? I got caught up on Better Call Saul. I watched a bunch of seasons, and I tried not to watch the news too much. I also got those false evacuation notices on my phone, which were terrifying. However, other than that, I really didn't have anything to do with the fire. So it might sound a little crass, but it's true. I have a couple of friends who lost their homes. So it was absolutely devastating. And I just really hope that the insurance companies are paying those people out, because there's a lot of rebuilding to do, and it's going to take years for people to get back into their homes. If not, they don't go back at all. Maybe they move altogether. And it's not just the houses that burned. It was their cars. You left a car there, that's gone. It really is a devastating situation. So my heart goes out to all those affected. I have been donating some money. So I, trying to do something, but I haven't donated any clothes or anything like that, because I think to myself, wait a second, these people just lost their house. Like, where are they going to put anything? There's nowhere to put anything. So I think gift cards are helpful, and just straight old cash. That's what I did. Anyway, you guys, I am happy to connect with you. As always, you can email me at christineblackburn1@gmail.com, christineblackburn1@gmail.com. And of course, check out storyworthypodcast.com for more information and to jump on my mailing list. That's about it. That's all I have to say. Check out storysmashshow.com as well. Get more information on Story Smash. All right, you guys, without any further hesitation, please put your hands together wherever you are for the very talented Mollie Heckerling.
My story is about my babysitter growing up. Her name was Barbara. She was crazy, and she looked exactly like Howard Stern. She was the kind of woman who would go into a restaurant and pick a fight with anybody, and, just would say anything because she had to say what she thought. She couldn't just not say anything, even if it was blunt and hurt your feelings. So she was a fun person to grow up with, very immature, very funny. But she had this tragic background because her parents were Holocaust survivors. And she would tell people when she met them a lot that her parents were Holocaust survivors because it was a big part of who she was. But I also think on some level she was accustomed to the sympathy a little bit where, everyone would, feel so bad for her and, it was like an immediate sort of bonding thing that, she had to sort of relate to people and feel like, she had their sympathy. But my mom was friends with Gilbert Gottfried, and she made the mistake of trying to turn to him for sympathy, and it was the worst call she ever made. What happened was Gilbert was in town and he wanted to hang out with my mom. And Gilbert, I love him to death. But he is the cheapest human being on the face of the earth. He is so cheap that when he got appendicitis, he waited for his appendix to burst because he was too cheap to call an ambulance. So he calls my mom up one night and he says, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm making dinner." He goes, "Oh yeah, what are we having?" She goes, "Do you want to come over?" So he wants to come over, but he doesn't want to pay for a cab. So she sends my babysitter to go to his hotel and pick him up. So I guess this is when it all started. I wasn't in the car with them, but I guess what happened was they're in the car. She starts making conversation. She tells him,
how old is the babysitter, by the way?
She was 45.
And her parents were still alive then, or
her mother was still alive. Her parents survived the Holocaust.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, her parents survived the Holocaust. Her mother was still alive, but her father died in a car accident with her little sister years later. So, I mean, just sort of like a, not a happy family background. So she's telling Gilbert her background in the Holocaust story. And I guess he starts up in the car, like making jokes and, being an idiot. So that by the time they get back to the house, she's already upset. And he just kept going all night long. Just like, he ate whatever my mom gave him. He licked the plate. He said, "I guess your parents didn't eat this good in Treblinka." Like, "Oh, I've been meaning to lose some weight. Can you tell me how your parents did it?" Like, all just sort of like, we're talking about Gilbert Gottfried because like, you can't cancel Gilbert because the beauty of Gilbert is that it's not even about the thing that he's making fun of. It's that you don't want him to make fun of it. So he has to, like the way that he got fired from Aflac for making all those jokes after the tsunami in Japan. You know what I mean? Like, it's a compulsive thing that he has to do. It's his superpower that he just like has to do this. So Barbara was, really upset. And
wait, did you guys sit down to have dinner? Did everybody sit down?
We're like sitting at the kitchen counter. I mean, we've never been like a formal sit down dinner type of family. We're slobs, like like you can take the girl out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the girl. That's my mom. So, we're just all sitting around the kitchen. He's eating. We're watching him like making these awful jokes. Barbara threatened to quit. My mom gave her more money and she, didn't quit, and we all apologized. She was upset that, my mom was like laughing at the jokes, but it's like, she had to explain. It's like, it's because it's Gilbert. It's not because, it's because he's insane. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't think that that's a valid excuse and would still think it's reprehensible, but they're probably also not comedians. So
exactly.
So what happened was Barbara was a really huge fan of Howard Stern. Like she looked just like him and she loved him and she listened to him every morning, and she knew that Howard Stern was friends with Gilbert. So she calls into the show one morning telling them this story, and they put her on the air. And then they got Gilbert. They woke him up, or whatever time it is that they record the show, like 6 a.m. They call him early in the morning, wake him up. They're like, "We have this woman on the phone saying that you made fun of the Holocaust," and, she's all pissed off, and, she works for Amy Heckerling, and they proceeded to argue on the air. And it was so funny because the whole time they were just ripping on each other. And Barbara loved a good fight. Like, this was the thing about her. Like, you couldn't take her to a sizzler without like her getting into a screaming match with somebody for God knows what, using a toothpick, anything that just like rubbed her the wrong way. So this was like sparring for her. Like, I think she really enjoyed being on Howard Stern with Gilbert, like telling him he had a small dick, and, you know, Howard saying, if you had to sleep with a Gilbert or a Nazi, and she says a Nazi, and Gilbert's like, oh yeah, because they could give you more bread. Like, it was just, and they did this. I guess it was like such a ratings darling that they had them on for like 3 separate episodes of just them fighting about, you know, him being a schlub and how she thinks Ron Zimmerman is sexier than he is, and like all this random shit. And all these episodes are on YouTube now, and they're labeled, oh my gosh, they're labeled Gilbert versus the German woman or Gilbert versus the Heckerlings. And he even started making jokes about me on the air because I was like 9 years old at the time. And he's like, oh yeah, Mollie, she's hot. Do you get to give her sponge baths? Like, what's that like? So he calls the house one day. And I was like, what'd you say? Oh, wait, no, I should go back. So Barbara and I also used to crank call him a lot after this whole incident. We'd leave him nasty messages telling him that he'd like wipe his ass with toilet paper and then save it because he was too cheap to buy a new roll, or just like that was like my stupid 10-year-old insult. Like, we just left him all these nasty messages. And when he called the house one day, I was like, what'd you say about me on the Stern show? And he goes, I said you had a big hairy cunt. And then he hung up on me. So yeah, all those episodes of them fighting are just on YouTube, where it's like, you know, she's telling him he's not funny, and, you know, it's just him like being a creep and making jokes about the Holocaust, and, you know, Howard and Robin just laughing the whole time. So that was my Gilbert Gottfried story, and also just my sort of way of keeping Barbara's memory alive, because she tragically killed herself when I was about 16 years old. She OD'd on Ativan, which is not uncommon. I mean, it's an epidemic. Lots of people overdose on opioids. And I remember, I think my mom saw Gilbert and he asked how she was, and she told him that she killed herself. And Gilbert, you know, someone who always has a joke to say at the most inappropriate time, like, he didn't say anything. He was just like, oh, fuck. So I think that, you know, in his own way.
It wasn't an accident?
No, it wasn't an accident. I don't think so. She was, you know, she was at a weird crossroads.
Great story, right? I knew you'd love it. All right, you guys, thank you again so much for listening to Storyworthy. Again, you can email me at christineblackburn1@gmail.com. And I sure hope you guys are having a okay start to 2025. Things are messed up and they're going to get worse. But we have podcasting, don't we? And we have each other. So thank you again for tuning in. And on behalf of Mollie Heckerling, my name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story. That you can follow me. I'll take you down to the river. Follow me. I'll keep you silent.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.